Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do a 12 marker for some of the debates. So let's have a look at the question that they've given us. So discuss the extent to which psychology, computer science support your answer with evidence from the course studies. So let's do the psychology of science one. You need at first kind of an introduction of what psychology of science actually means. So if you look at this PowerPoint and go down to psychology and science, it gives you some information about what you could use. So we might say psychology can be considered a science if variables can be operationalized. So hypotheses can be tested and falsified to establish causality. Predictions, consider that. Falsifiable scientific methods, control. So, in the of science, if variables can be operationalized or hypotheses can be tested and falsified to establish causality, and therefore be accurate at explaining the true cause for behaviour. Something short like that would do. And then you go into your first point, so you might say psychology, help if I could spell, or type probably, can be considered a science. If the research collects quantitative data as it allows for objective conclusions about behaviour. For example, Milgram found that 65% of participants obeyed up to 450 volts and therefore could objectively conclude that this was due to an authority figure in their environment, as there was Approaching with science, if the research collects quantitative data as it allows for objective conclusions about behaviour, for example, Milgram found that 65% of participants obeyed up to 450 volts and therefore could objectively conclude that this due to an authority figure in their environment. This does not require subjective interpretation, and so is not scientific. So that'd be your first point. And then you might counter and do like a weakness. So psychology may not be considered a science or maybe when there is a lack of qualitative data. For example, you can use Milgram again, but it's better to use something different. So you need kind of like a quantitative data result from one of the other studies. So you can't use Freud because that's like qualitative data. Baron-Cohen, so for example, but then you have to think of what it doesn't tell you. So like if you're assuming that getting a higher score, yeah, we'll do Baron-Cohen. So for example, Brown Cohen found that people with autism had a higher score, no lower score, had a lower score out of 25 than people, maybe put frame, but people had a significantly lower score. It's 25 than people without autism. However, as this is quantitative data, it does not explain why, and so therefore they could have got a lower score because they feel uncomfortable by the situation and not because they lack theory of mind. And that's not the right correction, is it? Comfortable theory of mind. Therefore, this conclusion is unscientific, as it is not valid. Can you see that I'm linking it back to the question about it being scientific and not? Because the point on its own is not enough to answer the question. Okay, so then we need why psychology could be a science. So let's do, because really we've talked about researcher bias when we did that one, didn't we? So this is probably the best one to use. So psychology could be considered a science if research uses laboratory experiments where there is a manipulation of an IV, as it allows causality to be established. For example, Loftus and Palmer found that when student participants were were asked a critical question with a verb such as smashed, it had a higher speed estimate compared to a verb such as contacted. Does that make sense? For example, Loftus and found that when student participants were asked a critical question about the speed of cars when they crashed, when the speed of cars in an accident, with the verb such as smash at a high speed estimate compared at a significantly higher speed estimate compared to a verb such as contacted. This manipulation of an IV verb used allowed Loftus and Palmer to conclude that leading questions affected eyewitness testimony. Therefore, studies such as this make psychology more scientific when explaining behaviour. It's a bit long, that one, but it'll do. And then finally, psychology. I mean, you might want to put however on, you know, like some things like a contrastingly kind of thing, so it's getting a bit repetitive, isn't it? Because I've always started psychology can be considered science. You put however there, however, psychology maybe not another word than however. Conversely, yeah, conversely, what have we got? Reductionist. That's kind of linking to that bit there. Maybe put not valid as it is reductionist. Maybe stick that one in there. And then maybe this one. Conversely, this use of laboratory experimentation may lead to psychology not be considered. Conversely, the use of laboratory experimentation may lead to psychology not being considered scientific, as I kind of want to talk about ecological validity, but then I don't think that makes it less scientific, that just makes it less valid. So maybe we'll not talk about that one. Conversely, use of laboratory experimentation may lead to psychology not being considered scientific, as if specialist equipment is used, it means only small samples can be tested, and therefore findings often lack generalization, often lack population validity. For example, Casey scanned participants' brains with an fMRI scanner to determine the activity of the frontal gyrus inferior frontal gyrus and the ventral striatum. Oh, I'm sorry, it's fine. To explain delayed gratification, give it context in there. Therefore, due to the expense and time needed to sample participants only. How many were used in case? Let's see. Sample 2 or 15, 27, 69, 46, right, so 27. So, due to the expense and time needed, some participants, only 27 were used. Oh, it's taken talking too much about this today. For example, Casey scanned participants' brains after activity improved. So, like, when using technology due to time and expense, only small samples can be used. This laboratory experimentation may lead to psychology not being considered scientific, as specialist views means only small samples can be tested, and therefore findings often lack population validity. For example, Casey scanned 27 participants' brains with an fMRI scanner to determine the activity of the front. Explain to research when using. No, let's just put therefore research such as this cannot explain everyone's behaviour, as the small samples are not generalizable to everyone, as they may not be representative. Thus, psychology can be considered unscientific. Overall, psychology can be considered a science if it uses research which is conducted in controlled settings. However, caution needs to be taken if small samples are used, as this limits the ability to generalise and therefore explain everyone's behaviour. Okay, that there is a perfect answer. You probably don't need to write it in that much detail to get the mark, so don't be freaked out. That's taken me 16 minutes, but I was looking up things like the cases stuff, and I haven't prepped it before. Obviously, if you've got this and you've prepped it and you go in there, you can write that a lot quicker. So it is possible to do it in the 15 minutes. And also, I kind of waffled on a bit with that one. So, you know, you can say that a lot shorter, you could use a different point and things like that. So I'll save this and put it on the Google Drive, and then I'll do another video for another one.